Smoking a backwood in this video. Welcome to Radical Hippie. We're on track to seeing over 100 million votes by election day. Well over 100 million votes. Whenever there's high voter turnout, that generally benefits the Democrats, which is why Republicans are mounting an astronomical amount of lawsuits right now in regards to mail-in voting because they don't like what they're saying. And in particularly with Texas. Texas has now surpassed its 2016 total in terms of voting. So that should be a deep scare and fear to the Republican Party because Texas is the equivalent to California in terms of its electoral presence for the Republican Party, in terms of giving them that boost that they need going throughout the night in terms of the Electoral College. Now, what does this mean for the Democrats? This means that the plutocracy of the deep state establishment Democratic Party is getting bigger. It's merely enlarging. There's evidence that suggests that Joe Biden isn't doing as well as Obama, as Hillary Clinton with voters of color, but the thing is, he's still holding steady with the national poll number, with the national poll lead. He's still holding steady at around 10% nationwide in terms of just overall support. So that's huge. That's huge at this point in time in the campaign. He's still holding a 10-point advantage heading into this final stretch, into these final couple hours until election day. And when I say the plutocracy of the deep state establishment Democratic Party is getting bigger, I simply mean the suburbanites and the boomers. This is the new base of the Democratic Party. I know this because I canvassed myself in 2018. During the 2018 midterms, I canvassed myself for Clay Jenkins, helped him get reelected. So I talked to a lot of these people in my state. Obviously, none of that happened or occurred this time because of the times we're in and what's going on. But I talked to these people myself. And lots of Texas voters are starting to switch over to the Democrats. That's just a fact. There's more people coming from out of the state into the state, on top of the heavy demographic shifts in Texas. So Joe Biden isn't doing well in terms of people of color coming out to vote for him, primarily because of the civil war that's been happening and that's going to continue to happen with a Biden administration, inevitably a Kamala Harris administration. Civil war will continue to play out. And there will be a civil war within the Republican Party too. If Trump is ousted, if he's let go in terms of this election, you're going to see a deep civil war within the Republican Party like never before. That populist presence that Trump tapped into, something he's not doing too much of a great job at this time, start to see that side of the party, the populist elements, rise up against the deep state establishment wing of the party, which Trump was supposed to be fighting this whole entire time. That Trump would have had to oust the whole entire Pentagon, the whole entire State Department. Most Bernie-crats will be voting for Joe Biden, and most of them already have. Well over 95% of Bernie-crats will be voting for Joe Biden. That's a fact. And one of the biggest things is, as I've always preached, Joe Biden doesn't even need that base. He doesn't need the 95% of Bernie-crats to come over and vote for him. He defeated these same people throughout the primaries. Primaries were a pivotal point in showing that. And he won heavily all throughout the industrial Midwest of our country. He won by comfortable margins. I think a state to watch early is Florida. That's going to be a key state for Trump. Trump can't continue the night if he loses Florida, if he loses North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona. He can't continue the night. The night will end early. That's why the deep state plutocracy of the party is starting to come down all throughout the Sun Belt of the country. And they're starting to campaign very heavily because they want to end the night early for Donald Trump. But I do think things can get tighter than what they are right now. I will say that because of the heavy campaigning that Donald Trump is doing, holding close to 15 more rallies throughout the course of this election. Like I've always said, Donald Trump is one hell of a campaigner. Hate him or love him, he's one of the best I've seen do it in terms of ginning up his base, in terms of creating excitement among his base, enthusiasm among his base. This is one thing that the Trump base fails to realize. It's just the Trump base. At this point, Trump has to switch over Democrats to the Republicans. And I just don't see that happening because you have to understand, everyone who votes on election day when there's already well over 100 million ballots cast by then, all of them are not just going to be voting solely and entirely for Donald Trump. That's just not going to happen. Will Donald Trump have more same-day votes than Joe Biden? Possibly, maybe even probably. But the thing is, the people who do vote that day is going to be adding on to the margin for the Democrats because of this early voting turnout. Donald Trump has to do something that he didn't even do in 2016, which is not only defeat that margin of error the polls swung his way, which was by 1.5%, which, by the way, if that same thing occurred, Joe Biden still wins comfortably. And not only has to do that, but he has to win a popular vote. Donald Trump must come close to, I would probably say, 48% just to be in play, On actual election day, if Donald Trump is not sitting around 49%, he's gonna lose. He will lose. Lots of people from his campaign, lots of people from the right-wing aspect of things, they're saying lots of people coming out to the Trump rallies are people that didn't even vote in 2016. So they're trying to say that he's added on new voters and undecideds, and they basically are starting to come his way. And like I said, things can tighten up as he's campaigning, as he's ginning up the base, as he's trying to rally them up on election day. Things can get tighter. Will he outperform his margin in 2016? I don't think so. I don't think so. He has to outperform the margin of error, go above 1.5% and well beyond that, and have a legitimate shot at winning. He has to basically overperform the polls by about 5 to 6%, by about 5 or 6%, just to have a chance, So like I said, he must be sitting around 49% on election day. And Joe Biden doesn't need the Bernie-crats from the party. His base is suburbanites and boomers. Like I said, the plutocracy of the Democratic Party getting bigger, in essence, getting bigger. You look at Joe Biden's policies, it clearly shows that. Joe Biden doesn't want to tax people under $500,000. He doesn't want to tax them heavily. Only people making $500,000 and higher above drastically. That's all he wants to do. And ultimately COVID. We have close to 250,000 deaths in the United States. War numbers, these are war numbers, more than the Vietnam War, more than the Afghanistan War, more than the Iraq War, all from a disease that he is purposely ignoring right now. So what I have to say to the Trump base is, what do you think is gonna happen? What do you believe is gonna happen? You let a candidate in senile Biden say, I'm gonna run for president because I'm gonna double down on those cliches and taboos and nostalgias that people have of Donald Trump in terms of he's a racist, or he doesn't represent me, or he doesn't take COVID seriously. That's how simplistic times have gotten. Establishment neocon Republicans are starting to back away from Donald Trump now. Mitch McConnell has effectively given up on Donald Trump. Ted Cruz is running away from Donald Trump himself. Look at this interview here where he's trying to weasel his way around questions and distance himself away from the president. So this is Ted Cruz's interview where he tries to distance himself from Trump and weasel his way around questions.
Let alone this debate, is the debt and deficit.
Yep.
Mick Mulvaney had a great quote. He said, when there's a Democrat in the White House, my party, boy, do we care about the deficit's the worst thing in the world when Barack Obama's president. But Donald Trump came in and, we're not so worried about that anymore. He's right, isn't he?
So look, I'm very worried about the debt. And I'm worried about it under Trump. Now, to be fair, Trump didn't campaign on cutting the debt.
He did. He said he was going to eliminate the national debt in 8 years.
He also said something, I'm the king of debt in 2016.
Right.
Trump has said from day one, look, he gets to decide his priorities, and they're not necessarily all my priorities.
But here's the thing.
The fact that
I don't doubt your sincerity on this. You have been consistent. This is not directed at you, but stepping back, you belong to a party that has greenlit a historic expansion of deficits and debt. And it's just a plain fact.
Do I wish that it was a higher priority for the president to rein in spending and the debt? Yes. He didn't run principally on reining in spending and deficit and debt. That's not what he promised to do. We had real differences between it, and you know what, the voters made a decision.
I will remind you, he did promise to eliminate the national debt.
But let me give another element of it, and this is where, in terms of how you eliminate the deficit and move towards reducing the debt,
you're going to say growth.
The most important factor. Trump's policies have been profoundly pro-growth.
Yeah.
The tax cut...
Also profoundly pro-deficit. Do you think your colleagues, the Republican Party, will rediscover its concern about debt and deficits?
Sure.
I mean, isn't that the most cynical, phony thing?
There's an element of it.
Doesn't that make you want to puke?
You're touching into something that, as you know, I have raged against. And I have raged against my own party not genuinely fighting to rein in spending and deficits and debt.
If this trend holds, Donald Trump is in trouble. If he loses Florida, he's truly in trouble. And there's just no other way to go about it. Because he can't continue the night without Florida. He needs Florida. Biden still has his outright majority of the country. His outright majority in the country is still holding, and it's been holding consistently all throughout the summer, really ever since he announced he was running for president, just to be honest with you. He loses Arizona, ball game is over. He can't continue the night losing these once staunch, hardcore Republican states, ruby red states, I guess you could say. He can't continue the night. And these trends have only been holding in Arizona. Then, of course, the Rust Belt, Michigan. He has bigger leads in the Rust Belt than Joe Biden. Like, this isn't even close. This is not even close. I'd somewhat expect Ohio to hold for him. This will be the first time that Ohio has voted against the winner of the election, but I expect Ohio to hold for Trump. If Ohio goes Biden's way, it's definitely over. Pennsylvania. Joe loves to say he's from Scranton, Pennsylvania, every chance he gets. And this is the lead, and it's been holding consistently. He has a 50% majority there. Trump is up in Texas. I expect this to hold, but like I keep saying, the voter turnout suggests the other way. So Trump could be in trouble. Trump could be in trouble. All throughout the industrial Midwest, the Rust Belt, the blue wall that Democrats love to rave about, is holding consistently. So, from the polling we just saw, Biden would get Wisconsin, Biden would get Michigan, Biden would get Pennsylvania, he would get Arizona. He's already the president. He's already the president right there. He's already the president. At this point, Trump is just winning states just to say he won something. But because he has consistent, steady leads in these states right here. Consistent and steady leads in these states right here. Especially if this one goes Trump, like the night's over. It's over for Trump. It's over. Because that immediately offsets the Rust Belt. Biden doesn't even need Florida, and it's close. He doesn't need North Carolina, and it's close, and he has a lead. Trump is back up in Iowa. I expect white America to come out for Donald Trump. Ohio. Georgia's holding steady for Joe. Georgia's holding steady. If the same margin of error occurred again, Joe Biden would still win the state of Georgia. If the same margin of error happened again, Joe Biden still wins Georgia. He still wins Arizona. He still wins Florida, North Carolina. Like, it's just going to be a blowout. Texas isn't even in the fold yet. Like, if this happens because of high voter turnout, I kind of expect Texas to turn blue. I kind of expect that. So for the sake of it, I'm just going to classify it as a Republican state. But if high voter turnout happens to a degree that we've never seen before, above 160 million, I expect this. I expect that. Probable. Is it likely? Probably not. It could definitely happen. What it's starting to look like, what it's really starting to look like, is a referendum and a mandate, electoral mandate for Biden, and a referendum on Donald Trump in terms of our president. Most people feel like he doesn't represent them, and most people feel like the democracy is on the ballot. Neocon, fiscal conservative Republicans are starting to distance themselves away from Donald Trump. That's by no mistake. The Democrats are going to perform well because they're going to win in the places that gave them the House during the 2018 midterms. This is about to be the largest election turnout we've ever had. We're probably going to see upwards of 160 million people vote throughout Election Day. Unprecedented numbers, just to put it candidly and lightly. And this is not good for the Republican Party. I know lots of people want to say, well, if all the undecideds go their way, they have a shot. At this point, all the undecideds could go your way, but at the same time, everyone voting on Election Day isn't going to be voting for your party. It's merely going to be adding on for the Democrats. So what do you think is going to happen? That's my 2020 election prediction. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.